going to talk about colour. And colour is a huge subject, as I discovered when I tried to squash it down into half an hour today. But what I want to start with today is how we all have our own individual story around colour. So if I was to mention a particular colour to you, I'm going to say out a couple of names of colours. I want you to kind of say back to me what's the first thing that pops into your head about that particular colour. So we all have our own cultural and experiential notions about colour, our own story. So as to say red, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Fire.
Fire.
Desire. Okay. I did have somebody one day say red Wellingtons. And that was all to do with a story that she had from her childhood about a favourite pair of red Wellingtons. And so when she saw red, she saw herself dancing in the puddles in her red Wellingtons. So you can see we all have our own story around colour. What is colour? Well, colour is just shattered light. So nothing actually has a colour. It simply has an ability to absorb and reflect wavelength light. And colour is actually part of the electromagnetic spectrum. And there's only a small part of the electromagnetic spectrum that's visible. And that part is white light. And white light falls between infrared and ultraviolet light. And we know from Newton that you can pass white light through a prism and it'll break up into different wavelengths of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo and violet. And we all, I'm sure, have experience of using crystals in Feng Shui to break up the wavelengths of light and bring rainbow light into our spaces. But as I say, nothing actually has a particular colour. So this green carpet that we have here today simply has an ability to absorb all of the wavelengths of white light and just reflect back to us the green wavelength. So actually, it doesn't have a colour. Nothing at all actually has colour. It just has an ability to absorb and reflect wavelengths of light. That was news to me when I studied interior design. So, what do you mean it doesn't have a colour? I can see it has a colour, but it actually doesn't. It's just wavelengths of light. So we can also look at colour wavelengths, and actually they're measured in a scientific level, so that at the red end of the spectrum, the wavelengths are longer and heavier, and they're actually more in tune with our physical body. They're more dense. And at the other end of the spectrums, the indigos and the violets are shorter in wavelength, and they resonate differently with us. So we can say that at the red end of the spectrum are the magnetic colours, the grounding and earthing colours. And at the violet end of the spectrum, they're the more electrical end of the spectrum, so they're more to do with our spiritual side. And right in the middle is green, which is the balancer. And we all also have the association of the 7-colour spectrum in terms of our chakras. I'm sure all of you who've done energy work and maybe yoga and shiatsu have heard of the 7 energy chakras, 7 energy centres in our body. And each resonates with a different colour. And some books will depict that as a spiral of a particular colour, and other people will talk about each of your energy chakras actually breathing in and out colour. So it's resonating with a different part of your physical body and a different part of your spiritual and emotional being. And then we have black and white. And black is considered to be the absence of all colour, and white is considered to be the presence of all colour, because we know white light contains all of the 7 colours of the spectrum. And then you'll hear colours described in terms of yin and yang. Yin being the receptive, absorptive end of the spectrum, and yang being the reflective and expansive end of the spectrum. And if we look at that in terms of colour and light, we know that black has the ability to absorb all of the 7 wavelengths of colour and reflect back none. So we perceive it as absence of colour. Red then is associated with the base chakra, your root chakra, grounding and earthing, energizing, activating. Some people have said their associations with it would be blood and passion and fire and energy. It's also the colour that immediately attracts your attention, which is why we use it in Feng Shui to attract attention and so qi or energy. So you will find a lot of Feng Shui cures and enhancements in the form of maybe red tassels or something red to attract energy and qi. And also we would use it to attract attention and mental clarity in terms of the stoplight and the red stop sign. We also have the association of red with love and passion, so we would inject a little bit of red into a space to add that sense of verve. Now the effect of being in a red space red raises your body temperature and your blood pressure. So if you're somebody who's very hypertensive and high stressed, you probably don't want to paint your bedroom red. Blue, associated with the throat chakra, to do with communication, expression, creative expression. Now we're into the cooler end of the spectrum. The cooler colours appear to make spaces appear a bit bigger. So if you paint a room blue, it'll appear to be a little bit bigger than if you painted it red. So it's going to feel different in terms of its expansion and contraction. To do with communication, so very useful in spaces where you want people to communicate freely. So perhaps in boardrooms, mediation rooms, where you want people to kind of have this cool, calm communication. It's the colour of truth, so it's often used by police forces around the world for that reason in their uniforms. That's the idea behind it. So all of the colours have a flow into each other and can be used interconnectedly. And we know from the Bagua that each area of our space can have an element associated with it, and there are colours associated with each element. So you can symbolize elements with shape and actual physical things, but also colour is a very useful way to do that. So we've only talked about the 7 colours in their basic form. We haven't added white or black or grey to them, which also modifies their energy. When we mix colours together, then we're merging their energy. So for instance, turquoise is a blend of green, which is the heart energy, blue, which is the throat energy to do with communication, and yellow, which is for mental clarity. And actually the physical effect of being in a turquoise space or of viewing a turquoise sea is to make you exhale. It actually has that effect of making you exhale and calming you down. So we can use colours individually and in combination to create an energy. We can also use colours in ornamentation, as well as painting a room a particular colour or adding fabrics or wearing particular colours. For instance, you might wear blue at your throat chakra when you're trying to communicate with other people, and you can use it in that way. So on your body, in your space, and even just drawing in a particular light. They say that when you work with your chakras and you breathe in particular colours, it's the same as assimilating or eating that colour. So if you work with your second chakra and imagine breathing in the colour orange, they say it has the same physical effect on your body as eating an orange. So there's a whole level of vibration that we can start to work with there in terms of colour. So basically with Feng Shui, first we have to understand what is the energy that exists, so a bit like Jan's checklist, find out what's going on in the space, and then decide what it is the person is trying to generate within that space, what it is they want to have happen, what change they want to affect, and then use colour to balance that energy in your space and into your life. And we can see that colour is a wheel, it's a flow of energy, so it's not a linear thing, each colour blending and forming into each other. And it falls into that whole spectrum of yin and yang. So at the yang end of the spectrum, we have white, which is the reflection back of all colours. And we have the grounding earthing colours like the reds and the oranges. And then at the yin end of the spectrum, we have the all-receptive black. And then we have our cooling colours. So they're calming on our bodies. So it's all a dance between yin and yang, but always coming back to what does it mean to you. So if the book says add a particular colour because it represents a particular element, always come back to what does that colour say to me? What's my story around that particular colour? And introducing it into my space will feel like what to me? That's where you personalize your Feng Shui in your space.